Ready. Welcome, everyone, to Women Talk Construction. I'm Angela Gardner, and I'm with my co-host, Christy Powell. Hey, Christy.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Yay. We have a wonderful guest on our show today. She is an executive speech coach, a keynote speaker, and an author. And she actually helped us with our recent TEDx
Thank
at
goodness.
Clemson University, and we love her for that.
Yes.
I have known her for a decade plus. I met her when she spoke at a Better Business Bureau event, and she is awesome. She is every bit of everything that if you want her as a speaker, whatever, as a coach, she is everything. And then her name is Deb Sofield. Welcome, Deb. How
Thank
are
you so
you
much for having
today?
me. Yeah, good.
Yay.
We're super excited to have her on, especially
Yeah.
she recently spoke at a Women Confidence Builders event too, and shared just wonderful wisdom within 3 to 5 minutes. Deb?
Yeah.
Like,
I think I got it down to 4.
It was great too, and very
Okay.
good information about the words that we speak.
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Well, Deb, why don't you open up and tell our audience a little bit about yourself before we get into the questions and answers.
Sure. So thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. And it's great to see you two again, even though we are across the miles here. I'm based in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm an executive speech and corporate presentations coach. So what that really means is if you've got a big presentation to make, you probably need a coach. And I come alongside you. I don't change your speech unless I have to, but usually I'm going to let you continue on. I say to folks, I'm not here to change you. I am here to polish you up. So you're already terrific. Let me just kind of help get you there. I work in the field of not just public speaking for your non-listening audience, but I also do a lot of work with how to deal with the media and when, and then crisis communication. And I've just added another section to my offerings, which is the value of words. The situation today is a lot of people are talking, very few people are listening. And friends, you have got to get your message across. So what would it take? And the words you and I are using are, in a sense, disintegrating. People are changing the meanings of words. And so we need to kind of pull people back in. And we also need to be strong in our language. And I believe we'll talk about that in a little bit today. But I do travel as a national speaker. I have a large private client list. I'm an author. I've written a number of books, 2 on public speaking, and then I had a radio show for years. And so I turned my radio show into a podcast series, which turned into a book series. And so I feel very blessed to do what I do. You know, they always say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And that's so true.
Oh, yeah. So, Deb, why don't you tell us a little bit about why it's important to have public speaking training, especially when you're in certain positions? And would you recommend that in what level of leadership would you be in that you would recommend that for as well?
Everybody. No, Angela, great
Okay.
question. Yeah, because people say to me, well, I'm not in charge. Well, if you don't learn to speak well, you'll never be in charge. So you've got some choices here. And is it expensive? Not really, when you consider the life value. I always say to my clients, I'll be with you for life if you need me, but probably after a while you don't. But I'm always going to be here, Lord willing, and that will help you if you need to make that call. I get some pretty crazy calls from folks who are like, oh, I just left the stage. It was terrible. And we'll walk it through. And it wasn't terrible. They just didn't get the reaction that they wanted. And you just have to realize today in your audience are folks whose lives are busy. And what time of day are they coming? Have we just fed them a big pasta lunch? So there's so much that goes into it. But Angela, to your point, yes, if you really want to change, I believe your trajectory to success in business today, you probably need a speech coach who just comes alongside. It is the greatest investment because you will always be speaking. So I used to say to my parents, don't worry, I'll always have a job. Because most likely in any endeavor that you're doing, you're going to be speaking. So let's speak well, but more importantly, let's speak so people will hear and understand you.
So important. One of the things that that you help folks with is media training, and I just want to explain a minute what that is to our audience because not everybody understands what that is, and I didn't either until a few years ago.
Mm.
So, if you're at a conference and a media person that happens to be at this conference just walks up to you to interview you, that is when you need to be media ready, right?
Mm.
When the least, when you're just not expecting it. The other opportunities or reasons that you would need media training, in my opinion, is like when I moved into the role that I moved into at corporate for 84 and supporting women in business, there was a spotlight shown on me and I didn't realize that was going to happen. So at that point, there were people wanting to interview me, not on a podcast, but also, on the news and whatever. And I really didn't know what to say. So that's just an open door for you, Deb, to explain to our audience what is media coaching? Why do we need media training? And for me, corporately, I didn't want to say anything that was going to be against. I wanted to be so careful to, lift everybody up, but also lift our company up and not say anything that was going to be taken wrong. Just like you said, the value of words.
Mhm.
And so please explain why media training is so important to our
No,
audience.
sure. Yeah, thank you, Christy. You're right. And what happens is when you least expect it, somebody walks up and says, well, tell me about, and you're like, oh, okay. If you are in any position of leadership, and especially if you believe the media will be there, you need to practice in advance. My favorite story is what they say about Winston Churchill. Somebody said, when you take those long walks, and he was well known for walking for hours, they said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm working on my impromptu remarks.
Mm,
Mm.
Fred, most of this is done in advance. Nobody, I mean, you've got to be good to
Mhm.
pop it out quickly. Most of the time, we've gone through a list of things you're most likely going to be asked. And because of that, I need for you to, in a sense, be prepared. Someone is usually going to ask it. Then let me just say, if it's not the media, think about this. Someone's going to hold up their phone and record you.
yes.
So, and next thing you know, this went out on social media, and you were just like, I was looking for chicken nuggets. I mean, you were out trying to be, a TV star, but it happens quickly. So, for anybody for all the folks who are listening out there, and when it comes to your company, I want you to do what we would call a preamble. Give me 3 things about your company, no matter what is asked. That's just amazing. Because somebody's going to walk up and hit you with something hard. And what you'd have to be able to say is, well, let me just tell you, at Women Confidence Builders, we do 1, 2, and 3. Well, what about you know what? That is something that we are working on. But I just wanted your audience to know that we do 1, 2, and 3. Now, listen,
Mm,
they're not going to cut you off.
right.
They may splice it at the station. So there's a lot of rules when it comes to media. You never fight with the media because remember, as a
Yeah.
media person, I can cut it
Yes.
at the station. If it gets ugly, you disengage. And how I tell folks to do that, sometimes you just have to lean in and go, I'm so sorry, but I've got to use the restroom. Like, what? So they have to unplug you and all that. But by the time you come back to the studio, that fire is out because you just boom,
Mm,
cut it off. You have every right to do that. If you know you're going to have a media session, I really believe you need to ask them, hey, what would you like to cover? I want to make sure I have the information that you need. This is not a gotcha. I mean, sometimes it is, but they also realize if they get you once, you're never coming back.
yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so also depends on where you are, but be prepared. It's like your interview. I'm an interview coach. What's the first question you're asked? Tell me about yourself. You're
Mm,
telling me you haven't practiced that?
right.
I mean, it's coming. You don't have to pay me. It's coming. But the reality is we're like, oh, my company, thinking, oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
What should I
So
say?
you do need media coaching. And it's not just because it it's not because someone's trying to hurt you, it's because you're trying to advance your cause and you have a split second. So, friend, be prepared. And I'm going to say that, Christi Angela, for most of the things I see people struggle with, they're just not prepared. They
Mhm.
haven't done their
Mm.
homework. They think they're good. And listen, I hope you are, but you probably could use some coaching. and, um, I'm in the business and even I practice. I mean, I want to be amazing. I don't want to just be good. Anybody can be good, but if you want to be amazing, you're going to practice, and you're going to
Yeah.
practice out loud. And here's why: the ear can fix what the eye can't see. So what do I
Mm.
mean by that? You write it on paper and it looks terrific, but then you say it and your tongue can't say a couple words well. Friend,
Mhm.
pick a new word. You don't need to keep pushing through. You're not going to tough it out. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be encouraging. It's supposed to be helpful. And so you have to practice.
And I feel like it should be natural, right? Sometimes when we write things down, it's not a natural
Mm-mm.
response that we would say. And so when that happened to me when you were helping us with TEDx. There were some words in there. I'm like, that doesn't sound like me at all. I don't want to say that.
Yeah, so change the word. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And I always say to my clients, nobody knows what's on your script. If you happen
Yes.
to go off script, if something big were to happen, fine. Nobody
Yep.
knows what's on your script. Keep going, keep
Yes.
going. And that's hard because you've practiced and you want to be amazing. And suddenly your brain goes, crazy. And you're like, oh, I want to say that. Great. Circle back around. You're okay. You're okay. And that's what I've got a client right now. And a very delightful person, but the fear is, we've had to kind of
Real.
walk back through childhood to figure out what it was. And I'll
Mm.
toss this out there. I have found as an adult, as I'm working with people, humiliation and shame are probably the two things that stop people from living their best life ever as a speaker. So what happened when you were in fifth grade, your mother put you in a talent show and you wore an outfit you didn't like and it did your hair and makeup and you walked on stage and you went blank and you left the stage and everybody still remembers that from fifth grade and they think it's funny and you were humiliated.
Yeah.
And I can't get that fixed until we go back and just realize it was fifth grade and nobody cares and your life is good and let's but I'll say it's humiliation and shame. I've been in this business a long
Huh.
time. And I
Mhm.
can tell you it's those two things that if I could just help people get past, we can make them really great speakers. But I'm saying it's not just women, it's men. I've had 60 plus men, old men who I'm not going to speak. Well, you're the president of the company. Well, I
Yeah.
don't have to. I'm the president. Well, they'd like to hear from you. Yeah. It was just like, and I'm like, okay, so what happened? And they're like, well, when I was in third grade, I'm like, you're 60. Hello. But humiliation and shame. And if I can just get to the root of that with you, we can heal it. You can ask if your faith asked to be healed.
Yes.
Talk it out with a friend.
She's
Others
already a
just realize,
therapist too.
Yes.
pardon?
Tag therapist onto your
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
title.
absolutely. Sure. Let somebody help you because you deserve to be a great speaker
Mhm.
and I can help.
Yes. Yes, she
Look at
can.
all
That is
the
the truth.
tips. The load of
Yeah.
Yes.
tips that our audience just got. Woo.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so Deb, the last one you talked about how you could practice,
Yes.
practice, practice, practice. Okay,
Mhm.
but when a crisis comes up, how do you deal with that with crisis communication training? Because we see it all the time on the media where
Mhm.
there's something that's a product that's been put out that has to be recalled quickly, and that CEO or someone has to get on the news. How do you deal with that? How do you help someone?
Sure. So we'll basically, I'll come into the company and we'll do a crisis scenario. So I work with realtors a lot.
So you
Love realtors.
prepare kind of for the.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. One of the issues we have with realtors is that the world's gone crazy and people are cruel and women are being
Mhm.
hurt when they're showing
Mm.
homes.
Mm. Oh,
So
no.
how do we respond? And
Okay.
the company needs to sit down. And friends, this is a living, breathing document. Think about this.
Mm.
When the news goes off at 11 o'clock at night, there's nobody in the studio. I mean, they've all gone home. No one's showing up till 5 the next morning. But what happens if your building starts to burn at 3 a.m.?
Mm.
Who do you call? And if you have the phone number of the sheriff 2 elections ago, that's not helpful. So
Yeah.
I always say to folks, the bigger the company, you need to think about this. Who do you need to know? And
Yes.
it's a living, breathing document. So as a coach, we go through that. We go through scenario training. You have to. You have to know what's coming. Quick story. I was working with a firm and their office was here and right next door was an empty lot. And they came to work one day and there was somebody in a car who had died or was killed.
Mm.
And sure enough, here comes the media. Boom.
Mm.
And they went to the office, knock, knock, knock. Oh, we want to talk about this. My friend had already been to my training and they kept focusing on his office. And he thought, I know this is, they say advertising is good, but this isn't. So he said, Deb, realizing what was happening, I walked over to the empty lot and they had to film me there, not in front of my office, because nobody in my office had anything to do with this horrible situation. But the media is looking for a story and we want a backdrop and, we want that. And he was like, not my office. He said it was so interesting because they kept trying to push him back. And he was like, no, my office has nothing to do with this. And I have staff and I've got team members and we just have to be careful. Friends, just think it's coming. And Angela, I wish it was easy. Yeah. Crisis communication training is not, but there's a lot of things you can be doing, company, that most of you aren't. It's social media. I hate it for you, but it is what it is. How many of you are putting out on a regular basis good information? Just good information. Maybe about pricing, maybe about a new place to eat for lunch. I mean, fun information, because when I see it and I share it, suddenly I'm in your friend list. So when something terrible happens and somebody writes in or on social media, well, I really don't like that company. I read it and I go, that doesn't sound like that company.
Yeah.
Because you really built goodwill. And because you've built goodwill, I'm staying with you. And a one-off isn't going to kill you. What's going to hurt you is if I've never heard from you and now you come roaring back with all this information when, let's just be honest, you should have been doing it all along. I know it's hard. I know it's annoying, but there's great companies that can do it for you, or you need to set somebody aside and get it done. You can protect yourself. Quit acting like this isn't going to affect you. It is. And you've got to be prepared. So crisis communication, there's just like a lot of simple rules. When it hits the fan, turn off the fan, people.
Wow, that, I always tell people on like the Google, now this is the mild version, is on Google Business. When people send you those bad reviews, answer them. Like, answer. That's the best. Like, and it's just what you just said, at a different level. So
the other, when it comes to like the Google review, I mean, let's take a look at that. You probably need to go on and say, hey, listen, we are so sorry you did not have an amazing opportunity at our restaurant. Please private message me and let me make it right. So what happens is I realize, well, you're not fighting, you're actually offering. Don't put your phone number out there. Be careful about how people reach you, but make the offer. And if they're still belly aching about you, the average person with a brain's like, listen, they offered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. So we've covered public speaking, media training, crisis training, and that in itself is a lot, right? And we all need it. Even if we think we don't need it, we need it, which is something I've learned recently. But tell us a little bit about your one-to-one coaching, which I was honored to be able to talk to you yesterday morning. I'm getting ready to do a pretty big presentation for a company in next month, actually. So I called Deb and I said, this doesn't feel right. And I love that. I just love the direction that you always take. Tell us a little bit about your one-to-one coaching.
Thanks, Christi. So as I mentioned a little bit ago, I'm not here to change you, but what I do is I remind you of all the other good aspects of it. And sometimes we can like maybe move things a little bit. One-on-one coaching is, you've got to, first of all, bottom line, you got to like your coach. And I will tell you, I'm tough love. I'm the youngest of 5, the only girl. The Bible says the Lord doesn't give you more than you can handle. Need to talk to somebody about that with all my brothers. But all that to say, there is that opportunity to come alongside and just say, hey, listen, let's look at it from a different perspective. And because here's the best thing about it. I don't know your business. So if it doesn't make sense to me, it's not going to make sense to them. So what happens is people get in a bubble and they're like, well, we have somebody at our company that does this. All right. They know your company. So they haven't had a new thought about your organization in 20 years because they know your company. So when someone from the outside is like, why do you do that? And you're like, well, we've always done it that way. Good. So, coming alongside, helping you think of other avenues. And you know what? Sometimes we go back to where you started, but now we know we've covered the bases. and you're going to feel more confident. And I believe in threes. Three in America, folks, just hear me. Here, Angela, you're like, good tips. All right, Angela, here's another one to write down. Americans think in threes: red light, yellow light, green light, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, proton, neutron. Yeah, the other one. And
Yeah.
we think in threes in America. You need 3 points, people. 2, and I'm curious. 4, and I'm lost.
Right.
So stick to what the
Good
American
point.
ear hears. Now, I work a lot in politics. I have candidates across the country, and they always want to stand up and say, well, I'm not talking about crime, education, and taxes. I'm like, okay, never heard those before. I've heard them all the time. Let's come up with something new. And what I'll ask folks to do is, so you've now told me you've got big ideas. Today, let's focus on education. Good. Because if you do a data dump, they're not listening. The audience attention span, last time I checked, it used to be 16 and a half minutes. That is a sitcom without commercials. Now, like I said, it's dropping. We think it's around 15. The problem is people say, well, I need you to speak for an hour. Well, maybe you need to fill an hour. You better be pretty good. I mean, I'm a good speaker. I practice. I know I'm a good speaker, but I am loud. I am energetic. I vibrate energy. It's just kind of who I am. And I can hold you, but I'll give you a break every hour on the hour because I know you can't sit there. Can I speak for 4 hours? Yes. You can't hear me. And I'm going to say I'm good. And so it is, man, think it through. Think it through. Let's make sure your audience can stay with you and still benefit from it. That's where I want my speakers to be rock star amazing. So yes, coach.
And you do a good job at that.
Yes, you do.
But a coach just comes alongside. And so I do believe you need a coach. Don't bellyache about the cost because the value will so far outweigh it.
Yes.
And your career will do better.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely. Because if we can present ourselves well in front of somebody we're speaking with, we're going to present ourselves well with our boss, with our colleagues, with our peers, with our family, right? Just communication as a whole, I feel like we could all do a little bit better job of communicating better.
And Christi, to your point, it's not you, it's the audience and what they're able to absorb in the time you have together. I was just at an event the other night. Room was packed. The noise level was out the roof. Half the people were drinking. And it just was, I looked around and my friend walked in and he's the speaker. And I said, I'm just going to tell you, it's a little chaotic. So you need to start with a story because we got to bring them all down because they are loud. They've been drinking because you're late. So and then you need to end and you need to get out of here because it's not going to end. It will end well. You will end well. This group's going to party all night. Let's hope they remember what we said.
Yeah. Good point. Very good point. The energy level in the room does make a huge difference as to how you present, correct?
It does. Because you and I feed off that energy. And what happens for speakers is if the audience is dull or tired, you get more animated. And then they're like, did she take her medication? And taking your meds. It's just that you weren't reading them correctly. I've had this happen in my own life where I've become more animated. And at a break, I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, we're mesmerized. Seriously? They're like, they've never had a speaker like you before. But I didn't know how to read that. And it was more of an erudite conference, and I'm probably not the one you would expect to be there, but I have a great presentation and they wanted to hear it, but I had never had an audience sit so still. That
is hard.
It was weird. So then they were like, oh no, you're terrific. Well, thanks.
Okay.
Just give me some feedback. But as they said, because for every other speaker, there was like, boom, nothing there.
Yeah. So Deb, you have all of this knowledge in your head. And then we did mention that you have many books out, that you've actually put it into books. And one of them is Encouragement for Your Life. Can you tell us more about your books?
Thank you. So Encouragement for Your Life is it's a 3-book series. There's book Wait, where am I? It's over there. There. All right. Volume 1, 2, and 3. And that's my radio show because people will be like, I just need to hear it again. And it's tough love. Let me just be honest. When I first started on the radio, I wanted to do public speaking skills. And after about 3 weeks, I realized nobody wanted to hear them, but they loved the story at the beginning. And people would write me and say, yeah, I don't care about the public speaking, love the stories. And I thought, you know what, Deb? And then I used to go for an hour and they'd write me and they'd say, yeah, only 20 minutes on the treadmill. So cut it down. So again, I'm thinking, I'm a speaker. They were like, yeah, don't want to hear it. So encouragement for your life, 3-volume set, tough love memos to help you fight your battles and change the world. So those are, and again, it's I like to read it. Even I still read it, and so it works good. And so I'm still finishing my podcast. I have a podcast series. I got hacked, and so I'm having to rebuild my system. I've got only about 150 on my website. The others are coming. And then I wrote a book called Speak Without Fear. And I can remember somebody came to me and said, I've heard you speak 3 times. You need a book. And I'm like, no, nobody needs another book on public speaking. And they're like, but nobody says it like you do. And I thought,
True.
okay. So we went ahead and we got the book written. It's about 10, 15 years old now, but I redo it. It's still good. And then that's a foundation. If you come to a Deb Sofield seminar, that is a takeaway. It's like, take Deb home. You can, the book is a great opportunity for that. And then I was sitting at a conference not too long ago, and I thought to myself, this speaker only knows how to speak. They don't love their audience. They took the check and they ran. And I thought, that I want you to be a great speaker. That's not right. So I wrote Perfecting Your Platform. And that book is for those who are probably speaking now, maybe in your company and you've been asked. This takes it up to the next level. This is much more, here's some rules. And there's a lot of rules that speakers need to know, especially if you do what I do. I'm a conference speaker. I travel around. I mean, it's simple things. It's about travel. It's about, listen, it's the hardest thing for me to say to people, and especially for female speakers, you don't need to be at the bar. And you need to be back in your hotel room by 9 o'clock because nothing good happens after 9 at the bar. And they're like, oh, but I want to hang with the team. Yeah, you're not the team. No. You are the professional speaker. And so I'm pretty brutal, just my nature. I just think someone needs.
We love your directness.
She is brutal sometimes.
Put the rules in a book. And so I did, and that's Perfecting Your Platform. They're both on Amazon, but I also voiced my own books, so you can catch me on Audible. For your book. And it's so rewarding when somebody writes me and says, oh my gosh, I got your book. I hear you. And I had a lot of fun doing it. It's a lot of work.
It is.
But I felt that was the best way to reach the audience because I was speaking in Wyoming and a guy said, I have to drive to the state house. It takes me 2 hours. I can't read a book. And so his prompting is the reason I thought I'm just going to voice them. You can get them on Audible and you can hear them over and over.
You're a great listener.
Yes. And thank you for the Audible because I am the same boat. I'm always traveling and I love to be able to listen to books when I'm traveling. So thank you for that. Those of you who are listening and not watching today, Deb actually pointed to her books behind her. Don't worry. All those links will be on the website when we publish this podcast. So you can find all of her resources there. And also, as we close up today, Deb, tell folks how they can get a hold of you, how they can work with you, how they can make an appointment with you and just learn more about what you can do to help them in their presentation, crisis, media, whatever training that they might need.
All right. Well, Christi and Angela, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to see friends again. You can find me at my website, debsofield.com. That is Sofield, Sofield.com. All my information is there. You can listen to podcasts for free. I don't charge for those. And that tells you how to find me as a speaker or a coach or just someone you need to talk to because you've had a situation in your past that has scared you to hit the stage. We need to get that healed. We need to get you back up because I believe your message needs to be heard. And sometimes the only way that works is that people need to hear your voice, not mine, not somebody else's, but your voice. And so I'd like to help you embolden your voice so the audience can hear what they need to hear and get on with their amazing life.
Thank you, Deb. We appreciate you, and we are looking forward to having you on one more time.
Okay.
We are going to talk about the value of words on your
Mhm.
next podcast, so we can't wait to talk to you again. Thank you so much for sharing what you've shared today and pouring into our audience. Have a great day.
Thanks, friends. Happy back anytime.